J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Chapter 11, Quidditch. As they entered November, the weather turned very cold. The mountains around the school became icy gray, and the lake like chilled steel. Every morning the ground was covered in frost. Hagrid could be seen from the upstairs windows, defrosting broomsticks on the Quidditch pitch, bundled up in a long molesting overcoat, rabbit fur gloves, and enormous beaver skin boots. The Quidditch season had begun. On Saturday, Harry would be playing his first match after weeks of training, Gryffindor versus Slytherin. If Gryffindor won, they could move up into second place in the house championship. Hardly anyone had seen Harry play because Wood had decided that as their secret weapon. Harry should be kept well secret. But the news that he was playing Seeker had leaked out somehow, and Harry didn't know which was worse, people telling him he'd brilliant, or people telling him they'd be running around underneath him holding mattress. It was really lucky that Harry now had Hermione as a friend. He didn't know how he'd go through all his homework without her, what with all the last-minute Quidditch practice Wood was making them do. She had also sent him Quidditch Through the Ages, which turned out to be a very interesting read. Harry learned that there were 700 ways of committing a Quidditch foul, and that all of them had happened during a World Cup match in 1473. That Seeker were usually the smallest and fastest players, and that most serious Quidditch accidents seemed to happen to them. That although people rarely died playing Quidditch, referees have been known to vanish and turn up mouths later in the Sahara Desert. Hermione had become a bit more relaxed about breaking rules, and Harry and Ron had saved her from the mountain troll, and she was much nicer to it. The day before Harry's first Quidditch match, the three of them were out in a freezing courtyard during break, and she had conjured them up a bright blue fire, which could be carried around in the jam jar. They were standing with their backs to it, getting warm, when Snape crossed the yard. Harry noticed at once that Snape was limping. Harry, Ron, and Hermione moved closer together to block the fire from view. They were sure it wouldn't be allowed. Unfortunately, something about their guilty faces caught Snape's eye. He limped over. He hadn't seen the fire, but he seemed to be looking for a reason to tell him all off anyway. This is Hermione making that little fire. What's you got here, Potter? It was Quidditch Through the Ages. Harry showed him. Library books are not to be taken outside the school, said Snape. Give it to me. 5 points from Gryffindor. He's just made the rule up, Harry muttered angrily as Snape limped away. Wonder what's wrong with his leg? Dunno, but I hope it's really hurting him, said Ron bitterly. The Gryffindor common room was very noisy that evening. Harry, Ron, and Hermione sat together next to a window. Hermione was checking Harry and Ron's chum's homework for them. She would never let them copy. How will you learn? But by asking her to read it through, they got the right answers anyway. Harry felt restless. He wanted Quidditch Through the Ages back to take his mind off his nerves about tomorrow. Why should he be afraid of Snape? Getting up, he told Ron and Hermione he was going to ask Snape if he could have it. Rather you than me, they said together. But Harry had an idea that Snape wouldn't refuse it were other teachers listening. He made his way down to the staff room and knocked. There was no answer. He knocked again. Nothing. Perhaps Snape had left the book in here? It was worth a try. He pushed the door ajar and peered inside, and a horrible scene met his eyes. Snape and Filch were inside, alone. Snape was holding his ropes about his knees. One of his legs was bloody and mangled, Filch was handing Snape bandages. Blasted thing, Snape was saying. How are you supposed to keep your eyes on all 3 hats at once? Harry tried to shut the door quietly, but... Potter! Snape's face was twisted with fury as he dropped his rose quickly to hide his leg. Harry gulped. I just wondered if I could have my book back. Get out! Out! Harry left before Snape could take any more points from Gryffindor. He sprinted back upstairs. Did you get it? Ron asked as Harry joined them. What's the matter? In a low whisper, Harry told them what he'd seen. You know what this means? He finished breathily. He tried to get past that three-headed dog at Halloween. That's where he was going when we saw him. He's after whatever is guarding, and I'd bet my broomstick he let the troll in to create a diversion. Hermione's eyes were wide. No, he wouldn't, she said. I know he's not very nice, but he wouldn't try and steal something Dumbledore was keeping safe. Honestly, Hermione, you think all the teachers are saints or something? Snapped Ron. I'm with Harry. I wouldn't put anything past Snape. But what's he after? What's that dog guarding? Harry went to bed with his head buzzing with the same question. Neville was snoring loudly, but Harry couldn't sleep. He tried to empty his mind. He needed to sleep. He had to. He had his first Quidditch match in a few hours, but the expression of Snape's face when Harry had seen his leg wasn't really easy to forget. The next morning dawned very bright and cold. The great hall was full of the delicious smells of fried sausages and the cheerful chatter of everyone looking forward to a good Quidditch match. You've got to eat some breakfast. I don't want anything. Just a bit of toast, wailed Hermione. I'm not hungry. Harry felt terrible. In an hour's time, he'd be walking onto the pitch. Harry, you need your strength, said Seamus Finnegan. Seekers are always the ones who get nubbled by their other team. Thanks, Seamus, said Harry, watching Seamus pile ketchup on his sausages. By 11 o'clock, the whole school seemed to be out in the stands around the Quidditch pitch. Many students had binoculars. The seats might be raised high in the air, but it was still difficult to see what was going on sometimes. Ron and Hermione joined Neville, Seamus, and Dean, the West Ham fan, up in the top row. As a surprise for Harry, they had painted a large banner on one of Sheet's Scrabbles had ruined. It said, Potter for President, and Dean, who was good at drawing, had gotten a large Gryffindor lion underneath. Then Hermione had performed a tricky little charm so that the paint flashed different colors. Meanwhile, in the changing rooms, Harry and the rest of the team were changing into the scarlet Quidditch robes. Slytherin would be playing in green. Wood cleared his throat for silence. Okay, man, he said. And woman, said Chaser Angelina Johnson. And women, he said. This is it. The big one, said Fred Weasley. The one we've all been waiting for, said George. We know Wallowa's speech by heart, Fred told Harry. We were in the team last year. Shut up, you two, said Wood. This is the best team Gryffindor's had in years. We're going to win. I know it. He glared at them all, as if to say, or else. Right, it's time. Good luck, all of you. Harry followed Fred and George out of the changing room and, hoping his knees weren't going to give way, walked onto the pitch to loud cheers. Madame Hooch was refereeing. She stood in the middle of the pitch, waiting for the two teams, her broom in her hand. Now, almost a nice, fair game, all of you, she said, once they were all gathered around her. Harry noticed that she seemed to be speaking particularly to the Slytherin captain, Marcus Flint, a fifth year. Harry thought Flint looked as if he had some troll blood in him. Out of the corner of his eyes, he was a fluttering banner high about, flashing Potter for President over the crowd. His heart skipped. He felt braver. Mount your brooms, please. Harry clambered onto his Nimbus 2000. Madame Hooch gave a loud blast on her silver whistle. 15 brooms rose up, high into the air. They were off. And the quaffle is taken immediately by Angelina Johnson of Gryffindor. What an excellent chaser that girl is, and rather attractive too. Jordan! Sorry, Professor. The Weasley twins' friend, Lee Jordan, was doing the commentary for the match, closely watched by Professor McGonagall, as she's really belting around up there. A neat pass to Alika Spinnet, a good friend of Oliver Wood's last year, only as reverse. Back to Johnson and... No, Slytherin had taken the quaffle. Slytherin Captain Marcus Flint gains the quaffle and off the goes, flying like an eagle up there. He's going to... Nope. Stopped by excellent move by Gryffindor keeper Wood, and Gryffindor take the quaffle. That's Chaser Cattybell on Gryffindor here. Nice dive around Flint off the field, and ouch! They must have heart. Hit in the back of the head by a bludger. Quaffle taken with Slytherin, that's Adriana Percy spitting after was a gold spout. But he's blocked by a second bludger. Sent his way by Fred or George Weasley, can't tell which. Nice play by the Gryffindor, better anyway. And Johnson back in possession of the Quaffle. And a clear field ahead, off she goes. They really flying, dodges and spitting bludger. The ghost puts her head. Come on now, Angelina. Keep a bloodshed divs. Misses. Gryffindor score! Gryffindor chills fill the cold air, which howls and moans from the Slytherins. Bad job there, move along. Hagrid! Ron and Hermione squeeze together to give Hagrid enough space to join them. This is the Gryffindor watching the match. Been watching for me, Hut, said Hagrid, patting a large pair of binoculars round his neck. But it isn't the same as being in the crowd. No sign of the snitch yet? Nope, said Ron. Harry hasn't had much to do yet. Keep after trouble, though that's something, said Hagrid, tracing his binoculars and peering skywards about the speck that way. Way up about them, Harry was gleaning over the game, squinting about for some sign of the snitch. This was part of his and Wood's game plan.